is this a one-time effort that is to be put in by a man, or is it a continuous process that has to go on for this to come about in the world?
See, usually throughout human history, what man has done is, we have a social problem or a religious problem in the religious field, in the form of interreligious conflict, or conflict in society between one people and another people, or international conflict between one nation and another nation. And we create a legislation, we sign peace treaties and agreements, and we come up with grand ideals that we should all be brothers and we should not fight. And we resort to diplomacy, we resort to a double talk, and we're doing all these things, and none of these things have worked. So our contention in the panel discussion is that we have to make everybody aware that there is a root cause for this, and the root cause does not lie in society, it lies in the individual consciousness, in the very way in which the human self is working. The human self has an inherent divisive mentality, and because of the divisive mentality, which is a kind of default setting, it has a sense of separation between itself and another with whom the self is relating. And so long as this default setting is not overwritten and corrected by spiritual sadhana and by going very deeply into oneself, none of the manifestations of the problem at the macrocosmic level can be really resolved. That is the thesis. That's why we are saying for interreligious harmony and world peace, self-knowing is sine qua non. That means that self-knowing is indispensable, and without that self-knowing, you are not going to go forward on this road.
So when you say about the self-knowing and the default setting, the individual has to be aware of the self all the time. It's a never-ending process, as you say, that I understand, that he has to be all the time aware of the mischief of the self, and it could come anytime if he is not paying attention to it.
That is right. He has got two options, the individual. Either he can be completely unaware of the self, and he can be in the very movement of the self, in which case he won't be able to observe the self. Right. So he is the violence, he is the hatred, and he is the sense of division, and he is the anger, and he is the sense of divisiveness. So he has no chance to view the whole thing. Now when he sits back, and which means he becomes more self-composed, and he listens to somebody who is making a suggestion to him that first start observing the whole thing. And then when he sits back and start observing the whole thing, then he is going to find that this is where the problem actually begins, in the sense of division, in the sense of separation, which is so deep-rooted, so fundamental, and so impossible to resolve. This will be his first finding.
Oh, so this is a tremendous shift that the individual will get in his consciousness the moment he sees it?
Right, he perceives the problem for the first time in his life. Till now, he was under the imaginary supposition that the problem, something is wrong with the world, that my adversary, people who belong to other religion, they are at fault, they have to apologize to me, they have to apologize to my religion. My religion is not the aggressor, it is the aggrieved. So you think everything is wrong with your adversary, and you think everything is right with you. Now, this is obviously a perception in the self being fundamentally divisive. And therefore, first of all, you have got to cognize this divisive mentality. And once you cognize the divisive mentality, then you have to go deeper after this.
So that means the religions that we are talking about, they also have a self?
Of course they do. And if you have a religious institution, the religious institution has a self, and the religious leader has a self, and the self of the religious leaders it actually gives a direction to the movement of life in the lives of all the followers. Therefore, the self of the religious leader is very, very important, whether that self is kind of jinxed or whether that self has become calmed and silenced, in which case he himself becomes a source of light and he becomes the guiding light for his people. So these are the possibilities.
So hence the importance of giving this message now on this platform.
Right, this is kind of glossed over, this is forgotten because you're dealing with macrocosmic problems, the social malaise and the religious malaise. So you think that the ills are only at the macrocosmic level. You don't know that the ills are actually rooted at the microcosmic level in the individual consciousness. So these are poles apart. The macrocosmic society on the one hand, which is visible, and the microcosmic realm, the consciousness of the individual, which is invisible. But in the invisible realm is the genesis of this very difficult problem.